Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are laser focused on a single week of updates from Google. We're talking January 11th through the 18th.
And it was a huge week.
It really was.
Yeah.
You know, looking at this stack of material, it feels like the ground is genuinely shifting. We've spent the last couple of years talking about generative AI, right?
Making text, making images.
Exactly. But this week, something feels different. The narrative has changed.
It absolutely has. I think if you draw a line through all these announcements, we are seeing the official pivot from generative to agentic.
Agentic. Okay, so unpack that for us. We're moving from a chatbot that, say, writes a poem for you
Right.
to software that actually does things for you.
Precisely. It's the difference between asking, how do I bake a cake?
Yeah.
And asking, hey, buy the ingredients for this cake and have them delivered by 5 p.m.
And to make that happen, Google dropped two absolute blockbusters this week.
Two blockbusters. First, that historic partnership with Apple, which, it really unifies the mobile AI landscape. And second, something called the Universal Commerce Protocol, the UCP.
The UCP really jumped out at me because, well, the name sounds a bit boring, doesn't it? Universal Commerce Protocol.
It does. It's very technical.
But the implications seem wild. They're calling it the HTTP for commerce.
And that's a really good analogy. Think about the early internet. Before HTTP, computers couldn't really talk to each other very easily. HTTP, well, it paved the roads.
Okay.
Google is trying to do the same thing, but for AI agents that need to buy things. Because right now, you have this problem they call the N-by-N integration bottleneck.
Right. Explain that, because to me, it just seems like filling out a form on a website. Why is that such a bottleneck?
Well, for a bot, it's way harder than that. If you're building an agent, you can't manually code it to understand the checkout flow of every single Shopify store, every Walmart product page, every Etsy listing.
They're all different.
They're all different. Different code, different buttons, different security. It's a mess. And on the flip side, a retailer like Target can't just build a custom API for every new AI startup that pops up.
So it's a language barrier, basically. The
Yeah,
bots
yeah.
in the stores, they don't speak the same dialect.
That's it, exactly. So the UCP, which launched on January 11th, is an open standard. And they co-developed it with some heavy hitters.
Like who?
Shopify, Walmart, Target, Wayfair. It gives agents a standardized way to, discover products, check stock, negotiate, and this is the big one, actually execute the payment.
And this isn't just a white paper.
All right.
This is actually live.
It's live. They launched what they're calling agentic checkout through Google Pay. PayPal's coming soon, too. Over 20 companies, including Visa and Stripe, endorsed it on day one.
This feels like it fundamentally changes the business model of the internet, though. The whole web is built on ads.
It is.
I go to a site, I see ads, I buy a shirt. If an AI goes to the site for me,
Sure.
I'm not seeing the ads.
That is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? If your customer is just a piece of software, the entire attention economy has to restructure itself.
So what's Google's play here?
They're betting that they need to own the rails of the transaction. If they provide the protocol, the UCP, and the payment method, which is Google Pay, they capture value even if ad impressions drop. They're trading eyeballs for transaction volume.
That is a huge, risky pivot. But I guess you have to make it if you think agents are inevitable.
Right.
Which brings us to the other blockbuster. They're building the rails for commerce, but they also just locked down the rails for mobile, the Apple partnership.
The rumors were true. On January 12th, we got confirmation it's a multi-year deal, and the reports are saying it's worth about $1 billion a year.
But looking at the details, the money is almost the least interesting part.
Oh, yeah.
The technical integration is what's truly shocking here.
It's a fascinating frenemy situation. Under this deal, Apple's next-gen Apple Foundation models and their whole private cloud compute system will be powered by Google's Gemini models and Google's cloud infrastructure.
Okay, let's be crystal clear on this. So when I use the new Siri or the new Apple Intelligence features on my iPhone, the complex reasoning, the heavy lifting that's happening on Google's hardware.
A significant portion of it, yes. Apple is, they're brilliant at branding. They keep the private cloud compute label, which sounds safe and secure to the user.
Of course.
But the engine room, that's Google's tensor processing units. Apple gets access to what they call the most capable foundation to finally make Siri smart. And they get to do it without building out that entire server infrastructure themselves.
And what does Google get out of it, besides the cash?
They get the inference workload. Just think about the scale of that. It positions Google's models as the core infrastructure for both Android and iOS.
Wow.
They're effectively becoming the operating system for intelligence across the entire mobile market. So even if you buy an iPhone to try and avoid Google, well,
You're still using Google's compute.
yeah,
That is a staggering consolidation of power.
it is.
You've got the commerce layer with UCP, and now the reasoning layer on the two biggest mobile platforms on Earth.
It really reinforces this idea of Google becoming the utility company for the AI age, like electricity or water. You just flip a switch, you don't really care where it comes from.
But they didn't just stop at infrastructure. They also released a whole barrage of open models this week. And I want to talk about TranslateGemma,
Right.
because I feel like translation is one of those things we all sort of take for granted now.
We do, but we really shouldn't. This release on January 15th was technically very, very significant. They dropped a suite of open models, 4 billion, 12 billion, and 27 billion parameters that cover 55 languages.
And the main headline here was efficiency, wasn't it? The middle-sized model was beating the bigger ones.
That's right. The 12 billion parameter model actually outperformed the previous 27 billion parameter baseline. That's a huge jump in efficiency.
So how do they do that?
Well, the how is the cool part. They use reinforcement learning, or RL, to train it.
Now, usually when we hear about RL, we're talking about, teaching a chatbot not to be toxic. Why would you apply that to translation?
To kill something called translationese.
Translationese. That sounds like a made-up language.
It's a real linguistic problem. You know when you read a translated product manual and the grammar is technically correct, but no human on Earth would ever actually speak that way?
Oh, yeah, like the cat is existing upon the table. It's clunky.
It's clunky. It has no flow. Exactly. Traditional training just rewards word-for-word accuracy, but reinforcement learning lets them reward naturalness. They basically punish the model if it sounds robotic.
And the result is a model small enough to run on a laptop.
Offline.
Offline, that sounds like a native speaker.
Yeah.
That's huge if you're traveling or just care about privacy.
And speaking of high-stakes accuracy, we have to look at MedGemma 1.5. This launched on the 13th.
The ambient doctor.
In a way. But what's really new here is the move from 2D to 3D. Previous medical AI, it was great at reading an X-ray, a flat image.
Right.
MedGemma 1.5 can natively interpret 3D volumetric data. We're talking CT scans, MRIs.
Why is 3D so much harder? Is it just like more data points?
It's exponentially more context. A 3D scan isn't just a picture, it's a spatial model of an organ. And MedGemma can do what they call longitudinal reasoning.
Meaning?
It can look at a scan from 6 months ago, compare it to a scan from today, and actually reason about the progression of a tumor or a disease in three-dimensional space.
That is incredible. Did we get any performance metrics on that?
We did. On the EHRQA benchmark, that's electronic health record question answering, it hit 90% accuracy.
And what was the previous best?
68%.
Wow. That's not an incremental bump. That's a generational leap.
It is. And alongside it, they released MedSSR for speech recognition, a 5.2% word error rate. For context, the popular open-source Whisper model sits at around 28.2% on these specific medical terms.
And in a medical setting, confusing hypotension with hypertension is a very big deal.
It's a very big deal. Low error rates are non-negotiable there.
Okay, so we've got translation, medicine, and weather. The Neural GCM paper.
Published in Science Advances. This one really connects to that theme of physics AI. They've combined traditional physics-based modeling, the equations meteorologists have used for 50 years, with machine learning.
So the best of both worlds.
Pretty much. Pure physics models can be slow and really expensive to run. And pure AI models, well, they sometimes hallucinate weather that isn't physically possible.
Right.
By combining them, they solved this long-standing, long-range precipitation problem. They are now outperforming the gold standard European forecasts for global weather simulation.
It really feels like they are plugging AI into the physical world from every possible angle. Which I guess leads us to the robots.
The Boston Dynamics collaboration. On January 14th, we finally got the field reports.
This is the stuff that usually freaks people out. The robots are coming.
It is, but the tech itself is so fascinating. They're deploying what are called VLA models, visual language action models.
Okay, break that down. What does a VLA model actually let a robot do that it couldn't do before?
It gives it something called semantic affordance.
All right, that is a $10 phrase if I've ever heard one.
I'll simplify. Let's say you tell a traditional robot, clean up this spill. It just errors out. It doesn't know what clean means in coordinates.
Right.
A VLA model looks at the table. It sees a sponge. It understands semantically that a sponge is a tool used for wiping things up. It sees the water, it connects the action clean to the tool sponge and the target water.
So it's not just running a script, it's improvising based on what objects are for.
Exactly. It connects the reasoning brain of a Gemini model with the athletic body of a Boston Dynamics robot. It's the bridge.
Okay, let's pull back from the sci-fi for a second to tools we might actually use.
Mm-hmm.
There was a beta launch for personal intelligence in the Gemini app.
Right. This is for the Gemini Advanced subscribers. The feature is called Deep Contextual RAG.
RAG being Retrieval Augmented Generation, the AI looking up your own stuff.
Yes, but the deep part is the key. It's the integration. It can securely reason across your Gmail, your photos, your YouTube history, and search, all at the same time. And the key is proactive suggestion.
Give me a use case.
Okay, so instead of you realizing, oh, I need to return these shoes, the AI scans your Gmail, it finds the receipt for the shoes, it checks the store's return policy online, and it sees the window closes in 2 days.
Okay.
Then checks her calendar and says, hey, you have 48 hours to return those Nikes. You've got a free slot at 4 p.m. on Tuesday. Want me to set a reminder?
That is unbelievably useful.
Well,
I have to play devil's advocate here. That is also unbelievably intrusive.
it is.
That requires access to absolutely everything.
It does. And that brings us directly to the safety and governance papers that Google released this week. On January 17th, their CISO's office released the Secure AI Framework, or SAIF.
And one phrase really stood out to me from that. Data is the new perimeter. Unpack that.
In the old days, corporate security was like a castle wall, right?
Right.
You just keep the bad guys out of your network. But now, with agents like the one we just discussed, agents that are reading your email and checking the web and buying things for you, the agent is already inside the castle.
So the wall doesn't matter anymore.
Exactly. You have to protect the data itself. And they introduced this idea of identity propagation.
Meaning what?
Basically, if an AI agent is going to buy those shoes on my behalf, it needs a kind of digital ID card that proves it is acting for me. It needs to carry my authority with it securely.
Like giving your assistant your credit card, but it's cryptographically signed.
That's the idea. And this connects to the national security framework they released on the 16th. They assess that defenders currently hold a, and I'm quoting, narrow lead against attackers using AI for, cyber attacks or creating bioweapons.
A narrow lid does not sound very comforting.
It's not. And their argument is that government needs to completely overhaul procurement. The bad guys are adopting AI fast. If our governments are stuck in 5-year procurement cycles, we lose.
Speaking of government scale issues, let's talk infrastructure.
Yeah.
Because running all these agents, the medical models, the translation, that takes a massive amount of compute.
A truly massive amount. And Google Cloud made a move on January 16th that might seem a little technical, but it's really about democratization. They launched SQL-native inference in BigQuery.
Okay, I know BigQuery is their huge data warehouse, but what does SQL-native mean for an average business?
It means serverless AI. Before this, if a company wanted to run a model like Gemma on their customer data, they had to hire ML engineers, set up GPU clusters, move data around. It was a whole ordeal.
A huge project.
A huge, expensive project. Now, a data analyst who only knows SQL, the standard language of databases, for decades, can just type a command like create model and run the AI directly where the data already lives.
So it massively lowers the barrier to entry.
Hugely. And the scale of adoption is already pretty wild. Sundar Pichai dropped a number on their Vertex AI usage.
Oh, what was it?
He revealed that Vertex AI is now processing over 90 trillion tokens monthly.
90 trillion.
Just for their retail customers alone, that's an 11 times increase year over year.
Yeah.
It confirms companies are not just experimenting anymore. They are running this stuff in production at scale.
Which explains why things like the Universal Commerce Protocol are suddenly so necessary.
Exactly. If you have 90 trillion tokens flying around, you need a standard way for them to conduct business.
We've covered a lot of heavy material, infrastructure, security, medicine. But we promised to solve a mystery.
Ah, yes.
The nano banana.
The nano banana.
This was driving the AI community crazy. For weeks, there was this model on the El Marino leaderboard, just called Nano Banana, and it was crushing everyone image tasks, but nobody knew who made it.
And on January 15th, Google finally fessed up. It was them.
Please tell me there's a logical reason for that name.
There is, and it's actually charmingly human. It was the internal code name for Gemini 2.5 Flash image. Apparently, a product manager named Nana
Okay.
combined her nickname Nano with banana, and it just stuck.
I love that. You have these trillion-dollar corporations, billion-dollar deals with Apple, and at the heart of it, someone just names a world-class project banana.
It humanizes the tech a little bit, but the flash part of the real name is important. This model is incredibly fast and efficient. It connects right back to that TranslateGemma theme of doing more with less.
So if we pull back and look at this entire week as a whole, you have the Universal Commerce Protocol standardizing how money moves.
Right.
You have the Apple deal standardizing where the thinking happens. You have all these specialized models for the physical world. It really feels like Google is building an operating system for the global economy.
That's the conclusion I come to as well. This wasn't a week of, flashy demos. It was a week of plumbing.
Plumbing.
Plumbing is what makes civilization work, right?
Right.
If Google provides the pipes for commerce with UCP, the pipes for mobile intelligence through Android and now Apple, and the pipes for scientific discovery, they aren't just a search engine anymore. They're the substrate.
The substrate. That's a powerful way to put it.
Yeah.
And it shifts the question from, is this chatbot fun to use, to, are we comfortable with one company building the digital roads we all have to drive on?
And when that company's agent offers to do your grocery shopping, book your flights, and monitor your health, are you going to say no?
Especially if it saves me 10 hours a week, like that survey said for teachers? Probably not.
That's the bet they're making.
Well, on that note, thanks for tuning in to this deep dive on the agentic shift. It has been a massive week, and we will catch you on the next one.